Hello there. Welcome to this week's episode of Health Options, the program that not only tracks government's policies on health, but gives you the information you need to make informed choices about your health. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. Cardiovascular health refers to the health of the heart and blood vessels, just as cardiovascular diseases refer to a group of diseases of the heart and blood vessels. These include coronary heart disease, stroke, heart failure, and heart valve problems. According to the World Health Organization reports, cardiovascular diseases are the #1 cause of death globally, meaning that more people die annually from cardiovascular or heart-related diseases than from any other cause. The report also indicates that an estimated 17.9 million people died from cardiovascular diseases in 2016, representing 31% of all global deaths. Of these deaths, 85% are due to heart attacks and stroke, while over 3/4 of deaths from cardiovascular diseases take place in low and middle-income countries, where Nigeria belongs. How can cardiovascular diseases be prevented? What are the risk factors? Warning signs, management, and treatment. That's our focus on this episode of Health Options. I urge you to join us on Our Nature Scanner for the concluding part of Water for Healthy Living on Our Nature Scanner. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Health Options, and we're taking a look at cardiovascular health. To take us through the discussion is Dr. Onye Achilihu. He is a U.S.-trained cardiovascular specialist. Glad to have you join us on Health Options, Doctor.
My pleasure.
Okay, we're taking a look at a very, very important organ of the body. Should I say the life wire of the body? Will it be right to say the heart is the life wire of the body?
You're probably correct.
Okay, so cardiovascular health. Let's start by taking a look at the importance of the heart to humans, or to living, as an organ.
I think you said it all. The heart, by its nature, is the engine in the body. Everything else is derived from its function because it has to supply the needed nutrients to every other organ for them to flourish. When the heart calls time, it's all over. So it's a very important organ. There's this debate about which one is more important, the brain or the heart. It's an irrelevant conversation because the heart has to supply the brain with blood anyway, without which it cannot function.
Okay.
The heart pumps blood that's enough to drive a trailer in a minute. It's an incredible organ. It also has a lot of mystery about it. It can stop when you don't expect it. It can stop in a baby lying in the crib. It can stop when you are doing your normal exercise. It can stop when you are in your sleep. It can stop without announcing that there's anything wrong with you. So that's how varied it can act. Oftentimes you hear somebody who is fit and able, and they go into a field playing soccer, for example, or basketball or running track. But there is something one can do to limit what the heart can do. In other words, there are certain things that you can't change, and that is something that has to do with your genes. Maybe someday we will. But as of today, the science is moving quickly. So there are certain things related to your genes, maybe. You can't change a whole lot of that. But there are certain things that are external that you can change. What you eat, you can change.
Okay, so let's now maybe focus our attention on those external ones.
Yes.
At least there are some scientifically proven risk factors that we can, avoid to prevent, our hearts going the wrong way, so to say? What are some of these risk factors?
There are many of them. We like to use the word modify rather than saying that you prevent. You can prevent something. We can modify a risk. Those risks are quite common in our environment. Number one, diabetes. Diabetes is a very common illness in our environment. It's a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease, but the consequences of diabetes can be modified, can be changed, can be altered by the individual if they are compliant with their medication, their lifestyle changes that are recommended by healthcare providers, and so forth. What you eat, that's number one. Number two, high blood pressure, hypertension, very common. In just about every family in this country, and even worldwide, somebody has high blood pressure. And it can manifest as an early disease in younger people. It can also occur as people get older, which is much more common. Then you have habits, certain habits that will acquire. Smoking. Smoking is probably one of the most dangerous habits anyone could engage in. It exposes you to the risk of having a heart attack, your arteries getting clogged, which can lead to heart attack or stroke. Another major one is high cholesterol. Oftentimes when I read about certain inaccuracies that people put up in social media, this cholesterol is no longer an issue, you can eat whatever you like. That's not true. Cholesterol is a major risk for clogging of the arteries. When you have abnormal cholesterol deposit in the wall of the arteries, it impedes blood flow. When it impedes blood flow... Is
it the same as having fatty tissues, clogging the heart?
That is correct. Okay. Not every cholesterol is bad. Okay. Cholesterol is a molecule that's actually essential for body organs, but it has components. Some are good, some are bad. So we have what we call high-density lipoprotein, which is actually good, and we have low-density lipoproteins, which is actually the bad part of cholesterol that deposits in the wall of the artery, oxidizes, forms a hard plaque, which can then impede blood flow. And whenever that happens, there's a mismatch between supply and demand. And then an individual now says, when I do something, I get discomfort in my chest, or tightness, or pressure, or heaviness. But also know that somebody may not have those symptoms and still have a heart attack. But generally, the risk factors are bad cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure, and smoking. And actually, it also includes inactivity. People who live a sedentary life and therefore suffer with obesity are more likely to also have cardiovascular disease.
I'm really concerned about the signs and symptoms. Most of the time, I've heard people say, without, for just no reason, that they get palpitation. Is it a sign? Or you just feel an ache in your chest? What side of your chest do you, feel an ache that should be a source of concern to us?
I will come to the question of palpitations. Okay. Let's address the symptoms of, that's what you're suggesting.
Yes.
Symptoms of heart attack.
Yes.
Or heart condition.
Yes.
There's something we call angina, which is chest discomfort resulting from a mismatch of blood supply and demand. What that means is that you have an artery, there's a blockage in the artery. When you sit down the way you are now, the demand on your heart is very little. So even if you have a blockage, you may not feel any symptoms. But the moment you start exerting yourself,
like exercise
or any type of activity that requires increased blood flow, then the demand on the heart is increased. So if there is some restriction to blood flow, you're going to have discomfort. And that discomfort is a spectrum. People describe as chest tightness, or heaviness, or a dull ache that may or may not radiate to the left arm or jaw. it can come with palpitation. Palpitation, by definition, is just awareness of heartbeat. When your heart is beating, you don't know. It's a quiet event. You go along and the heart is beating, you're not aware of it. But awareness that your heart is beating, which people can describe at all.
Okay.
And that's a reflection of the demand on your heart. So it can be part of those symptoms, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Palpitation can result from a variety of other issues. Anything that raises anxiety level, discomfort at your job, somebody's bothering you, lack of sleep, financial issues. Those things can also interact with the physiology of the body and cause palpitation. They're not necessarily dangerous, but they can also reflect on underlying structural problems with the heart. But a heart attack results when there's a mismatch of blood flow and demand. Somebody can also have a heart attack without complaining of anything.
I thought something triggers it.
Yes.
Something has to trigger it.
Well, let's put it this way for the common man to understand.
Yes.
A heart attack means that there is some death, some degree of death of the heart muscle because it's been deprived of adequate blood supply. You don't have to die when you have a heart attack, but the first presentation of a heart attack can also be death. 50% of the time when somebody has a heart attack, that's the first presentation, it comes with death. Oftentimes, it can also be silent. You have your heart muscle damage, but you keep going. You don't even know. And then you come to us another time, and then we then do a test and discover that actually you've had a blockage, and the body has been able to compensate by developing its own bypass that has
kept the heart moving.
That is correct. Wow. Remember also that the gene and biology of every individual is different. Somebody may have protection from what you may not have protection from. So it's a spectrum of disease, but by definition, a heart attack means that a portion of the heart muscle has suffered damage as a result of poor blood supply.
Okay, let's look at stroke.
Yeah.
In all of this,
Yeah.
Heart attack and stroke are leading causes of death. How do you, what should we be looking at?
Stroke, by definition, is brain attack, which is equivalent to heart attack. It's just that the territory is different. The territory is the brain here, as opposed to the heart.
What's the connection?
The connection is that anything that interrupts blood supply through the vessels that supplies the brain can cause stroke, just like anything that interrupts the coronary arteries blood supply to the heart muscle can cause a heart attack. So you understand? So the pathophysiology is the same. There's a disruption in the blood flow. That comes, like sometimes people get this confusion that, oh, he had a stroke, therefore he must have had high blood pressure. It is not necessarily so. High blood pressure doesn't necessarily have to lead to stroke, but it's a major cause of stroke. The blood pressure rises, and there's reduced blood flow. The pressure can lead to a tear of the blood vessel, and then the vessel, the part of the brain suffers damage. That's stroke. But also, a certain foreign body can come from elsewhere and go to the brain and also interrupt blood supply. That is also stroke. That's actually more common than stroke related to high blood pressure, which is a bleeding type of stroke. But a plaque can come from the vessels of the neck and go to the brain, because these vessels here, the carotids, have branches that supply the brain. Also, something that comes from the heart. For example, when somebody has irregular heartbeat, the blood flow is no longer laminar, it's no longer good like it should. So clot sits in the heart, and that can break loose and go to the brain and cause stroke. So it's a bunch of things, it's not just one thing. But stroke, there's damage to the brain cells. Heart attack, there's damage to the heart muscle.
The world is more or less in a turmoil. There are a lot of issues that affect people's emotions and their psychological stability. Such burden on the heart. How does the heart cope with all of this, or how should an individual try to strike a balance?
That's a good question. In other words, you are alluding to some form of stress. you're right. The entire world, not just Nigeria.
Yes.
We have
our fair share, yes.
a fair share of it,
yes.
Which should not be minimized. But the world over is in turmoil as well. Stress can be a trigger for cardiovascular events, no doubt about it. Because when you are stressed, the sympathetic nervous system is activated, and that leads to production of certain stress hormones, which make the heart work harder, make the pressure in the blood vessels get higher, blood pressure can go up, and in a vulnerable individual, that can precipitate an event. A certain level of stress is also helpful because it awakens you to your responsibilities. It makes you realize that you have a date with time. But when it becomes overbearing, that's when the problem comes. So an individual that lacks the ability to adjust to issues will probably more than likely have more problem than somebody who easily submerges a certain bad feeling to the subconscious and keep moving. He's able to adjust. That person probably have less effect from stress than somebody who worries too much about everything, assigns doom to everything that's around. So that's not good.
So positivity.
So
positivity,
precisely.
Mindset.
So your psyche is important.
Wow.
So you must have some way to submerge things that are not too necessary and assign less meaning to them.
Let's talk about lifestyle modification, and specifically narrow it down to nutrition. The diets are heart-friendly.
In summary, the best diets are fiber-based diets: vegetables, fruits, and vegetables. Less meat, particularly red meat. The leaner the meat, the better, because something that is lean has less fat. So, for example, let's bring it home. If you want to eat chicken, the chicken you should eat is the free ranger. It's not the one that you buy from the store. 2, families should try to cook their own food as much as possible. What I found out is that after living in the Americas for so many years and people are staying away from junk, Nigerians are acquiring the habit of eating junk, chips and chicken, outsourcing their meal to eating houses, hydrogenated fat, ice cream, all manner of things, which people are actually running away from. And they think it's hip. It's a way to say, oh, I have arrived. But that's harmful. So the food should be as lean and natural as possible. More vegetables, more fish, exercise regularly most days of the week, not just for aerobic balance. It's also healthy that you eat lean, mostly vegetable and cereals, less meat, and exercise regularly, and don't smoke. You understand?
Yes.
Smoking is a bad habit. It's not just about heart health, even for cancer prevention.
I want to find out why cardiovascular diseases get to be on the increase for women when they attain menopause.
Very simple, because they begin to lose the estrogen protected effect.
Okay.
That's all. Most men die from heart-related diseases than women do. The reason is twofold. Number one, a man will always find a reason to punt away their symptoms by saying, oh, I have something to do. But when a woman has a complaint, she will have to bother her husband until she goes to the hospital. Also, most people, both men and women, as they get older, don't have the classic presentation, for example, for somebody who is having chest pain. They may not have chest pain. Because as you get older, your perception of pain is altered. If you notice, remember your grandmother at 80 or something, she would pick up a hot iron and not complain of pain. But you can't.
Yeah, I used to wonder how.
Because as you get older, your pain receptors are altered. You understand? So somebody can actually have be having a heart attack and not complain of chest pain, but they will complain about shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. So we'll call it equivalent to chest pain. So a doctor who doesn't really doesn't have that broad-based knowledge of what presentation of this kind of disease may represent, he ignores, oh, the woman has asthma, oh, she has asthma. No. In our setting, you have to assume that every symptom that somebody has represents something. And then you begin to say, well, what could it be? You want to eliminate something that has potential consequences, that if you miss the diagnosis, there's a cost.
Thank you so much. Time is fast spent, but I'm extending an invitation to you to maybe come take us through CPR. That's how to resuscitate cardiac arrest victim. Yes, on our next episode. Will you accept?
Anytime.
Okay, so viewers, look forward to having Dr. Onye Achilihu taking us through CPR techniques the next time you see him appear on Health Options. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Doctor.
My pleasure.
All right. From hydration to dehydration, even intoxication. Check out the concluding part of our offering on water for healthy living.
Drinking enough water, bats the kidney, provides opportunity for the kidney to function properly, and by so doing, you have good metabolic activities, and you live healthy and live well. Like I also said, blood contains 90% of water, and we should know that blood carries oxygen around the body system. And which means if you do not drink enough water, then the blood will lack water, and then there will be no opportunity for oxygen to circulate in your system well and properly. So these are some of the benefits that we derive from drinking water and remaining very well hydrated. The volume of water that you take it depends on several factors. The three most important factors are age. Your age is a very good factor. So a younger person has more water in his system than an elderly person. A male has more water than a female. Now, so you can see sex is also a factor in the amount of water that could be in your system, that you really need in your system. Your environment is a good factor also in water. In fact, let's take Nigeria for example. If you live in Sokoto, Maiduguri, or even Abuja, the amount of water you need in your system will not be the same as someone who lives in Akwa Ibom State, who lives in Lagos State, who lives in Rivers State. That is environmental, that's weather. So when the amount of water that is in the human system is in excess of what that particular man or human being is supposed to have, then it leads to water intoxication.
This is our show for this week. A quick reminder that you can go to our YouTube channel to watch the upload of these and other episodes of the program. Email us for your comments and contributions at healthoptions@nta.gov.ng. Continue to stay safe by observing all the COVID-19 safety protocols. I remain yours, Rabi Abdullah. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again.